Howdy, guys, and welcome to night number 50 of the Overnight Feeds recap for Big Brother Season 24. Night number 50. They only have 32 days left in this house. We're definitely getting to the end game. We're going to be a lot closer after the double eviction that we have this evening. We're going to be down to 8 house guests, so we're getting near the end of it. So, what's going to happen tonight? Well, just as a bit of a refresher, remember that the outsiders have Kyle and Joseph on the block. The insiders have Jasmine and Monty. We're almost certain, 99.9, almost positive that tonight we're going to have Joseph and Jasmine heading out the door. So we'll be down to the 8 house guests. Now, how cool would it be if everyone's thinking it's just straight up vote, 2 people vote for each side? If last minute Julie said, yeah, we're going to flip it up. All the outsiders, you're voting for the 2 people the insiders put on the block. All 5 insiders, you're voting for the 2 people who are on the block for the outsiders. Wouldn't that be fun and chaotic? I don't think it's going to happen, but wouldn't that be fantastic? But alas, I think it's going to be, as things stand now, Joseph and Jasmine heading out the door, joining Indy in the jury house. So now we've got a little refresher, something to look forward to this evening. Oh, HOH is going to be so huge this evening. But let's talk about what happened overnight, the feeds themselves. Not so much happening out in the backyard, a little bit, we'll talk about it, but primarily it was one conversation taking place with the insiders that they want to talk about this evening, and that is a conversation with Jasmine. They've been talking about it for the past few days. Don't we tell Jasmine? Eventually they decided to. Now, I had mentioned before, I thought everyone's going to be trying to rush to Jasmine, make sure that they were the one that told her that she's going home to build a little jury credit with her once it comes time for votes and all that. Well, they changed it up a little bit. We actually had a conversation with Michael and Brittany and Taylor, all 3 visiting with Jasmine back in the Jetsons back bedroom. A little rough. Jasmine's sitting over in a corner. The rest of them are sitting in the rest of the room around the beds and all of that. It just took on, because it was 3 versus 1, it took on a little bit of an interrogation type meeting. So not quite as nice and friendly as I expected, but the deed was done. They did talk to Jasmine. Eventually they let her know that she will be going home on Thursday. Now the meeting started off a little awkward because Jasmine, as soon as she had all 3 of them in, started pitching on why Monty's a bigger target. She's injured. She's not going to be a threat. She'd be loyal to him. All the things that she wanted to try to convince them. And they basically said, yeah, that's all fine and good, Jasmine, but hey, yeah, you're going home. So, whatever. So they did eventually tell her. Michael and Brittany and Taylor, as mentioned, were the 3 in there. They started asking Jasmine a lot about details from the past, primarily about the alliances that Jasmine was in. They brought up old school, girls, Pose Pack, the 5 Swatters. Hey, she was in a bunch of alliances, wasn't she? Bring them all up. And Jasmine on each one was trying to deflect, either by saying that she wasn't a part of it, which they know isn't the case, but saying either she wasn't a part of it or it was formed without her knowing about it. And, hey, Michael, you never don't join an alliance if you're asked to. And very much acting like she was just an innocent bystander, whether she was actually a member or not of these different alliances. They, at this point, respond back and say, look, first of all, I think it's Brittany who said, first of all, when you've got this many different alliances, it's tough to really believe you when you say you've got our back because you got alliances with so many people. They also let Jasmine know that basically they've known this info for weeks. This isn't something that they just found out. They've known it for a while. They've been watching. They've been keeping track. They blamed a lot of the leaks on Alyssa, and some of it truly did come from Alyssa, but basically throwing Alyssa under the bus and then saying, yeah, she got everything over to us, so we know everything that's been going on, Jasmine. They're also confirming. Jasmine at one point says, so was Monty ever the target this week? And they said, no, it was always you, Jasmine. In fact, Michael says something like, you're good at reading people, Jasmine. There's a little bit of a zing. Says, you're good at reading people. No, you understand. We're not going to lie to you. You were always a target from the very beginning of the week, that Monty was never actually the target. So they have fessed up to that. They did not tell Jasmine about the leftover alliance. They had made a decision beforehand that they weren't. They're accusing, not accusing, they're talking about all the alliances that Jasmine belongs to. they're kind of conveniently leaving out the alliance that they belong to that has been running these things. It's the way it works in Big Brother. So they do not tell Jasmine about the leftovers, although I absolutely believe that in the goodbye messages this evening, Michael will spill the beans about it to Jasmine. He's going to tell her everything about the leftover alliance and build a little of his own credit if he makes it to the final two. Jasmine does tell them at one point that Kyle had said that Taylor and Brittany and Michael, the three people she's talked to, Jasmine's saying, hey, Kyle said that y'all had a final two, final three deal, that the three of y'all were working very close together. Now, this group has already decided that Terrence is their primary target. That may change when they find out that Alyssa didn't go home, but they basically are hearing this. I'm wondering how it's going to work in terms of their interactions with Kyle. Kyle's going to be a big target, Kyle and Terrence, and this isn't going to help any to find out that Kyle was telling Jasmine about this final three that he felt like they had. Jasmine at one point starts crying, but otherwise she seems to handle it well as reality sits in. Yeah, it's a bit of a shock, but she eventually says, thank you for telling me. I appreciate it. I love you guys. Yeah, I understand. I'm proud of how I've played. Everything that you would hope and want to see when someone's heading out the door. She's saying, at the end of the day, she's I wanted to win. I wanted to see Zingbot, but if that's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. She says, but I don't want Turner to win. That's my goal. I do not want Turner to win. I'm thinking Turner may not have Jasmine's vote when it comes down to that final two, right? She is saying that she's sorry about not standing up for Taylor in the early weeks, that she regrets not doing more to protect Taylor. And Taylor says, I appreciate it. Now it's, we'll be friends when we get out of here and all that. So the two of them kept it fairly classy throughout the whole conversation with that point. Now we do have a little bit later, Monty met with Jasmine in the car bedroom. And Jasmine's giving him some background information about the previous weeks, primarily the dealings with all the with Amira and Indy, and just dealings with all the different women in the group, and some information on that. And Jasmine does ask Joseph about, ask Monty about his relationship with Joseph, and Monty's very non-informative. He just says, "Well, what do you think? Listen to your gut, and you'll believe what your head's telling you," and things like that. So he doesn't really confirm anything as she asks his questions, but they do have that. Jasmine does mention at one point that if there's another all-star season, maybe she can come back at that point. I'm sure. I figured she'd immediately bring up that when she's not injured and all that. So she's already thinking about her comeback with two functioning ankles at that point in time. All right, a little bit later, we got Taylor and Michael and Brittany and Monty. In other words, everyone except Jasmine up in the HOH room. They're comparing notes about Jasmine, about lies that she told beforehand, that she told during their meetings, and everything else, how the conversations went. It was, I said that Taylor and Jasmine kind of ended on classy terms. They did, but again, it was very, very much an interrogation. I don't really get why there's so many hoops and things they have to jump over. Just say there's a group of 7 of us. You weren't part of it, and we kept you as long as we could, but time comes and it's time to go, Jasmine. I don't know why they have to be so fancy and tricky in calling her out for all of her alliances and things that she did, as opposed to saying the numbers were against you, Jasmine. So it was a little rough listening, but they're now comparing their notes about it. Taylor is mentioning what they hope happens on the other side, and really a lot of conversations about that. She's really hoping that Joseph can come back into the house and win HOH tonight. Well, things may not go quite the way you're thinking or hoping they're going to go, Taylor. They are playing a little game where they're making up rumors about the other house guests for fun, things like Jasmine and Turner, secret lovers, just silly stuff. So they're having some fun with that. I think there's a lot of relief in this room that now they've told Jasmine that she didn't blow up on them or get upset or spill secrets that maybe people didn't want spilled, things like that. So I feel like there's a little bit of relief going on right now. Taylor is talking a little bit about how nasty Alyssa was for taking the London trip from Taylor. Taylor has not forgotten that. Remember, Taylor so badly wanted to get Alyssa out on her HOH reign. Kyle wouldn't let it happen. He wouldn't use a veto. Taylor has not forgotten. She's still talking pretty rough about Alyssa. Uh, again, we know Terrence is going to be a target. We pretty much can guess that Kyle's going to be target, and Alyssa's a target as well. If one of these four wins HOH, you want to know who the two nominees and the replacement nom is going to be? Well, there they are right there. Yeah, she's still thinking about that trip that she lost. She would have lost it to Jasmine anyway, but she's upset at Alyssa for taking a trip from her. They are talking about going forward next week, and the plan sounds like from all of them, Terrence is going to be their primary target because inside the house, they're still solid 100% leftovers. Let's get out the last couple of people, being Alyssa and Terrence, and then the seven of us will fight it out. It's going to be quite the shock when they discover that things didn't go quite that way on the outside this week. All right, we've got a long conversation between Monty and Taylor in the bathroom and then the kitchen. Not really game talk, a little bit more about, oh, how are you feeling right now? I'm feeling pretty good, and talk about different products for hair and things like that. It's non-game talk, but they did have a long conversation. One thing with these two groups being split up, it has allowed this group of five and the outsider group of five, seems like it's allowed them to bond a lot closer than when you have more people in the house. So I think we're going to see that carry over into the next week or two. These two sides, no, we don't like everything that's happened with this twist, but it perhaps has created two new sides that are going to be knocking heads as we go forward. All right. We've got all of them upstairs in the HOH room still, again, wondering what they're going to do if Alyssa hasn't been evicted. Monty's saying, look, if they come back in the house and Alyssa's still there, the plan stops at that point. This plan of the leftovers, it's done. We've got to do something else. Monty's saying, we're going to have no option but to fire back. If they don't get rid of Alyssa while they have a chance, we've got no option but to fire back. And Brittany's saying that, look, we're going to have a major problem if that's the case. Makes me think, if you're the outsiders, could you lie to them and tell them that Alyssa won the veto? She pulled herself off. Would that conceal the fact that they took a shot at the leftovers? I don't know. Alyssa's already said she's not a very good liar, so probably they would see through it. But just a thought. But they are a little bit worried about what's going to happen if anyone but Alyssa gets evicted. Michael is talking about the fact that really they need to wait and see who wins HOH tonight. And once that happens, then start asking questions, listen to people's stories. They don't need to be too reactive, regardless of what they see happened outside. Wait until the HOH is declared, and then they can start figuring out what their game plan is going forward. Brittany is talking about how it is probably pretty fortunate that Terrence was HOH this week. She said, I don't think Terrence is going to lie to us to protect those other house guests. We should be able to get the true information, a true story out of Terrence once they get back into the house. Well, Brittany, they may be a little tighter than you think. I'm not sure Terrence is necessarily going to be giving you all the real info the way you think, especially now that Terrence and Alyssa both know about the leftovers. Remember, the insiders don't know that yet. We'll see if they find out or if it stays a secret that everyone knows now about the insiders. They are wondering what role Turner might have had in whatever happened outside this week. Did he just go with the flow? Was he active? They don't know where Turner fits into this game right now at this point in time. And then there's some talk about possible upcoming competitions and things like that. When's Slip and Slide going to happen? I'm ready for Slip and Slide. It's about time for it. I don't know if they'll do it tonight because I don't think they've got time to set it up in the backyard and all that, but I'm ready for some Slip and Slide. All right. At that point, we do have some good night messages to the cameras from the inside house guests before they all head off to bed. The guys head off to bed. I think Jasmine was already in bed. Taylor spent some time taking off her makeup and all that. But basically, they're shutting it down in the inside at that point. So let's talk about the outsiders. Not as much conversation, but a little bit here and there. We've got Joseph and Kyle, Alyssa and Turner. They're talking about various non-game things. Turner's talking about the fact that he was using Jasmine's wet wipes and she got all upset. He didn't realize that he thought they were for everyone. No, they were just for Jasmine. Alyssa's saying that Jasmine started carrying the wet wipes around with her so no one else would use them. So yet another thing, Jasmine and Turner just didn't mesh this season. All right, we've got Alyssa and Kyle snuggling, or at least as much as they can in the backyard, laying side by side. Alyssa's crying as she goes over all the things that Kyle did to her so far, that he lied to her, that he revealed things that she had said, that he was willing to vote her out, apparently. In other words, Kyle was prioritizing playing the game of Big Brother over a showmance with Alyssa. But she's not happy that he was doing all those things, and he's eventually Kyle's crying a little bit, and eventually he apologizes and says he's sorry for. First, he says that I don't know I'm apologizing for, and eventually he says, "I'm sorry, I apologize for everything." She's got Kyle hooked at this point in time. And then at that point, they're good again. They're talking about traveling. They're talking about having kids. They're talking about doing drugs while they're in California. I guess Kyle wants to test out his wild side a little bit. He says he'll do anything. He'll do whatever as long as it's with Alyssa. He's good to go. The L word was actually mentioned between both of them. Kyle at one point says, I wanted to maybe say it outside the game because I thought it'd have more meaning than inside, but the word was still used. All right, we've got Alyssa and Turner in the hammock. Probably as much gameplay as you're going to get in the backyard last night. Alyssa and Turner in the hammock. Turner, they start talking a little game. Turner eventually says, maybe we ought to do, what would you think about a final three between you and me and Kyle? And he's saying, man, maybe that's kind of sloppy because we already have a final four with the three of us and Terrence, but what if we made that a kind of a final three as well? And Alyssa's all for it. She said, yeah, talk to Kyle. I'm fine with that. I think it's fantastic. So do we call that a final three? Yeah, I guess so. And is Turner just covering all of his bases at this point, or does he truly want to go forward with Alyssa and Kyle? I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who wins HOH tonight. Turner's in a pretty good position. I don't think he's going to be the primary target for anyone. So he can kind of look and declare sides based on what happens over this next week. I think that's the way it's going to go. But at least in front of Alyssa, he's talking about a final three with her and Kyle as well. We've got all the outsiders sitting around on their little patio chairs complaining about the food that they've had to deal with for the last week, saying they're never going to eat tuna fish again, never going to have hot dogs again, laughing, saying they aren't going to talk to the insiders. They don't hear any of the insiders talking about how great it was inside the house while they had to deal with everything going on the outside. It's been a rough week for these outsiders. They're going to enjoy having a bed and AC. Come from a Texan. I know what it's like not to have AC. They're going to appreciate the AC in that house and warm showers and everything else that comes with living inside the Big Brother house. Of course, the insiders are going to appreciate having that door open and getting some of that stale air out of that house, get a little fresh air again. So a little trade-off from both of them. All right, we do have them talking about plans. Them all talking about Daniel. They all, now that Daniel's gone, they're okay with him, and they're saying they're all going to go see Daniel's Elvis show together once they get out in November, whatever. So they talk about that. Last we see the outsiders about 9:30 or so. So I have a feeling they may have called it a night as soon as 10 o'clock came around. And so there you go, guys. Again, the main conversation, Jasmine knows she's going home. Joseph knows he's going home as well. He's tried, but I think he understands as well. So there's not going to be any huge mystery with the eviction of tonight. It's the HOH afterwards. Not even the HOH. I'm really excited to see these two groups come together. The outsiders are going to look in. They're going to see Jasmine gone. Turner will do a little dance, I'm sure. They're all going to be fine with that. The insiders are going to see Joseph missing. They're not going to be quite so happy to see that result. It's going to get their minds a spinning. Little does Michael, we had one conversation, I should mention, Michael and Brittany were talking, and they really are thinking that they're going to be able to ride this thing in the middle, that they're going to have Kyle and Alyssa on one side. They're going to have Monty and Taylor and Joseph on the other side. Those two are going to be able to do battle with each other. Michael and Brittany will kind of coast in between and make it to final three, final four, final five, somewhere up there. They don't realize that the outsiders are already talking about Michael as their primary target once this group gets back together. So their game much more at risk than they think it is right now. It's going to be great when we see these two groups together, see what stories they tell, what lies they tell, what truths they tell, how forthcoming they are about what happened throughout the week. It's going to be a fun one. And then we'll have the HOH after that. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Thursday. I'm so looking forward to this evening. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully knowing who the HOH winner is. And from that, we can talk about all kinds of scenarios now that we're down to the final eight. 8 people is who we're going to have left this evening. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Thursday. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.